computer. All right. Good to see everybody. Here we go. We're going to go with Shulchan Aruch. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, moving along with the laws of Mezzuzah. But before I do that, I want to mention some things about Yom Kippur. And we spoke about it yesterday, but I'd like to mention once again, Yom Kippur is tomorrow night. And tonight, there is a old Jewish custom of doing kaparot, which we have a custom of taking a chicken, swinging it around our head. Obviously, just, imagine this is the chicken, you just go very lightly. And we say a certain prayer, Zeh kaparasi, Zeh chulofasi, this is my atonement, I exchange my sins for this chicken. It's symbolic. Then they shech the chicken. There's a mitzvah to cover the blood. Now, a lot of places you won't be able to do that. Like where I go, right down the street is another Chabad house, and they don't slaughter the chicken there. But in New York, if you were in New York, you could. In Israel, obviously, there's a mitzvah to cover the blood. It's a mitzvah from the Torah to cover the blood. Anyway, what do we do with that chicken? Now you might say, like, oh, this is like gross and terrible. First of all, it's like any other slaughterhouse, essentially. If you eat chicken, you shouldn't be so grossed out. But nevertheless, the chicken is then used for, the chicken is then given to a charity, or like I said yesterday, in our case, it was sent to the yeshiva. That was the chicken we eat for like the whole year. You can imagine thousands of people come. There's lots of chickens. Otherwise, it's given to a charity, some sort of charity. Anybody who needs chicken, they go, they kosher it, they pluck it, they do everything. You're not there for that part of it. So that's a well-known custom. It's best to do it closer to sunrise, actually. But I'll be taking my kids, so we'll probably do it at like 6 o'clock tonight. You don't have to use chickens. You can use money, and the amount of money should, I believe, at least be $3, and then you give it to a charity. Each member of the family does it. Just to mention, what we mentioned yesterday, the Beit Yosef, who is the halachic authority in the Shulchan Aruch for the Sephardim, he says that you should exclusively use money. Do not use a chicken because it looks bad in the eyes of the nations. Interesting, and the Ramah, who's for the Ashkenazim, says you should exclusively use a chicken. Interestingly enough, you'll find plenty of Ashkenazim use money, and all Sephardim use a chicken. That's the power of custom, of a minhag over, perhaps over halacha. Now, obviously, it's more what we call chumra dik. Chumra means more severe or more, it literally means severe, but it means more, in this case, it means more better, more behider. It's more muhuder. It's more beautiful. It's better. You're more stringent to do it with a chicken. So since nowadays people are not really, the nations of the world are not going to look down upon, PETA will be protesting in Crown Heights as they always do. They come every year, every Yom Kippur, to Crown Heights and to Borough Park, and they protest. It's quite a scene. But for the most part, everybody eats chicken, or they appreciate chicken. And obviously, Kabbalistically, we try to eat meat for many reasons, as we've spoken about in the Chassidus class. But since it's better to use a chicken, and the nations of the world do not look down upon us using chickens, the Sephardim have taken the custom back on to use a chicken. Why is it better to use a chicken? Again, everything in this world, or why do we using meat Kabbalistically? What's the idea of using meat? As we've spoken about many times, our job is to elevate the world. Man is there to elevate all the lower species, like domem, inanimate, which is salt and rocks and whatnot. Sameach, which means to grow, all plant life, and chai, animal life. Yeah, everything is trying to be consumed with that which is more closer to God. trying to be consumed up. Man is oil al gabehem, is higher than the animals, so therefore we have the ability to elevate everything. And we then give ourselves over to God by being connected to God, by doing the mitzvahs. Like we know, mitzvah comes from the word tzafsa, which means to connect. It's our way of connecting to God. And then everything then becomes elevated up. So it's very holy to eat chicken or to eat meat, especially on holy occasions. I'd like to just mention a few halachas. Once again, on Yom Kippur, we don't wear leather shoes. Leather shoes. We wear a leather belt. We don't wear leather shoes because it's comfortable, because the Torah says you have to afflict yourself. And affliction means, in the Torah, it means to fast, but we also try not to focus on anything. We're not focusing on the physical. In a broader sense, it means don't focus on physical pleasure. We're much more spiritual. The essence of God is revealed and it atones. It's an extremely holy day. It's the holiest day of the year. And we're not interested in physical pleasure. We're interested in what's true pleasure, which is spiritual pleasure. So we don't do that. We don't have relations. We don't bathe. You can wash your hands up to your knuckles. That's what you do, up to here. Obviously, you don't eat, you don't drink. If you have to eat or drink, if you're a woman nursing and you have to eat and drink, let's say, you get sick if you don't, or it'll put the baby's life at risk, you can take a 1 ounce, you can take 2 ounce cups, 2 1 ounce cups. Yeah, 1 ounce cup and a 1 ounce cup. You can put water in one, and you can put food. You can stuff food in that other one, and every 8 minutes or so, you can take them both at the same time. If 8 minutes is also too long, then you can do it sooner. But we try to minimize as much as we can of eating and drinking. We don't have to, obviously. Yeah, I think pretty much the basics. Spend most of the day in shul and in prayer. It's a beautiful service. I know it might seem terribly long, but if you follow along, you kind of know what's going on. It's really beautiful and captivating. And then you read the story of Jonah and the 2 fish. And you read that. And there's a lot of beautiful liturgy. And like I said, it's actually my favorite. It's one of my top 3 favorite days of the year. Okay, so let's move along. Learn the holy Shulchan Aruch, Code of Jewish Law, Laws of Mezzuzah. Here we go. A bathhouse and a tannery. We don't really have tanneries anymore. And a mikvah are exempt from Mezzuzah because they are not used as dignified dwellings. You're not going to sleep in a bathhouse or in a mikvah. A stable or a room in which birds are raised, or a house in which straw or wood is stored, or storehouses of wine or other drinks that have the dimensions of a house require a mezuzah, but others maintain that they are exempt. If the general rule is, if you could sleep there and it would be acceptable socially that you would sleep there, then it would require a mezuzah. The question is, though, or you could put a mezuzah, and that's a big difference over here. There's required mezuzah. You could put a mezuzah there, and therefore, if you could, some would say whether you should. It's an argument, a machlokes, whether you should say it with a bracha or without a bracha. When in doubt, do without. You don't say a bracha. I don't remember if you took a drink, and you don't remember if I said a bracha on this drink. I don't remember if I, said the after bracha. I don't remember if I said a bracha. Whatever it was, you don't do it. When in doubt, do without. And that, by the way, that line is used in my house when it comes to physical things, material things like a shirt. When you're at a store and there's a dress or a pants, and you're like, should I get this? Should I not get that? If it has to do with you, when in doubt, leave it out. Don't do it. You'll be much happier without not buying it. When it comes to doing a good thing for somebody else, when in doubt, do it. Is it kind of weird if I send them a nice note? Is it weird if I send them a text or I go to visit them? Go ahead and do it. a rule on my wife and I. In a place where children are usually found, or in a room where people sometimes bathe or urinate, the mezuzah should be covered. Now, over here it's sometimes. It is only when these practices are occasional that we may rely on the coverings. However, if something odious is permanently installed, for example, a urinal is placed near the mezuzah, we cannot rely merely on covering the mezuzah. That's why if you go to a bathroom, there is no mezuzah on the door. There's always that joke when you go to someone's house, where's the bathroom? And they'll say, find the room with no mezuzah. It's not a very funny joke, and it's actually kind of annoying, but that's the truth. The question is, nowadays, bathrooms are not odious. They're not disgusting. So some would say, and we spoke about this one about washing hands. Could you wash your hands in the bathroom, or should you wash your hands out of the bathroom? Now, normally you should wash your hands out of the bathroom. And Shulchan Aruch says you should not wash your hands within a bathroom. But back in the day in the Shulchan Aruch, there was no indoor plumbing. Yeah, it was an outhouse. So it stunk, and you can't wash your hands, try to get clean in a dirty place. But nowadays, because we have indoor plumbing, some bathrooms are gorgeous. Toilets made of gold. Did you guys see that one that they stole the golden toilet in England? Some would say you could say a bracha. You could wash your hands in the bathroom, but try not to. But if that's all you have, then you could. But I'll still agree that you shouldn't have mezuzah on the bathroom, even beautiful bathrooms as today. The question is, what about the doors leading to the bathroom? Yeah, if you go to a nice restaurant or a hotel, right? There's that room. There's usually a room before you get into the bathroom, at least by the men's stalls. I'm assuming by the women's also. I've never been there. Does that room need a bath? Does that little room need a mezuzah? And the answer is obviously no, because you wouldn't sleep there. A house or a courtyard in which a Gentile also resides is exempt from the mitzvah of Mezzuzah. So if you have a non-Jewish roommate, you don't need a mezuzah. However, you will need a mezuzah on your own door, if you're on your own room. If your room is your own dwelling, you don't share a room with a non-Jew, you will need, I'm not sure if it gets into that, but it's obviously very common. You will need a mezuzah on your own door. Now, same applies to an office. Office is very common. A office typically would need a mezuzah. But if you share the office with non-Jews, I don't even think you need one on your own door. Especially if everyone's a partner if you don't have like full ownership of the room, your office that you're in, you don't need a mezuzah there. You'll see people do it. People have a mezuzah there. And you could put a mezuzah. In general, you could put a mezuzah, just don't say it with a bracha. But I think for the most part, you don't. It's a rare occasion that you would need a mezuzah, assuming that it's not a totally Jewish company. If you rent, you also need a mezuzah. You rent a house, you need a mezuzah. And all the doors. A garage, most poskim, most halachic authorities rule that you do need a mezuzah on your garage door. Laundry room, you need a mezuzah. What are other common questions that I get? These little tiny rooms in the basement. Those also typically will need a mezuzah, provided they're, I think, 4 feet by 4 feet or 6 feet by 6 feet. I forgot the exact washing. A cellar. Let's say you live in Kansas and you get a lot of tornadoes. A cellar whose doorposts and doorway are flush with the ground is exempt from the mitzvah of mezuzah because it is not considered a doorpost unless it is standing. So if you see the movie Twister and you think, oh, if only he had a mezuzah there, he would have been saved. Nope, he was exempt. If you rent a house outside of Eretz Yisrael, you are exempt from the mezuzah for 30 days. What does that mean? You're just going to stay there for just 2 weeks. You're going to stay in a hotel. In a hotel you rent. You are exempt from mezuzah because it is not considered a permanent dwelling. And I believe they're going to say you can still do it. There are those who hold, however, if you want to put up a mezuzah before the 30 days, you may do so, and you are permitted to make the bracha. If you know for sure you're going to say that for more than 30 days, then you can put it up at any time. I think when my wife and I rented, when we moved, we didn't have enough mezuzahs because we lived in a place in Boston that only had 3 rooms or whatever. And we moved to another place that had 5 rooms. So we were short a couple of mezuzahs, and the rabbi was kind of on our case to make sure we get 2 more mezuzahs before the 30 days. So if you're in a hotel for more than 30 days, there's a good chance that you're going to need to put up a mezuzah. You're basically a renter. Now, if you switch rooms, you will not need a mezuzah. If you switch rooms at any time, then you will not need it. What if you pay for 30 days, but you're only going to sleep there for 10 days? You will need one. I'm almost positive you will need one. Because it becomes your dwelling. You take ownership of it. It becomes you. And like we said, the mezuzah protects you even when you leave your house. If you move away from your house and it is occupied by another Jew, you should not remove the mezuzahs, but should leave them there, and the new occupant should pay for them. So that's included in the sale price. You just move it into the mortgage. You pay it off, so to speak. Now, you should leave them there, but that person can then take them down and give them to you if they have their own mezuzahs. I think that's the nice thing to do, especially when your mezuzahs are probably, especially when the person who sold the house has very mehuder dika mezuzahs, very beautiful mezuzahs. Like we have very big ones. We got the biggest ones we can get. Obviously, not too big. You don't want it ridiculously big that you actually run into bigger problems. More problems. You have too big of a mezuzah, it could be a big problem. It takes up your entire door. You can't do that. That's not good. It's got to be at the bottom of the top third. But if you have a very nice mezuzah, and then they have these little dinky mezuzahs, and usually what happens is they give you their mezuzahs from their previous house, and great, they haven't been checked in 10 years, and who knows what's going on with them. So the nice thing to do is to actually take down the mezuzahs, eventually give them to that person within their 30 days, and then you go ahead and purchase your own mezuzahs. That's the nice thing. If they want their mezuzahs, obviously. Okay, moving along. Just see if I have any questions. I'm getting blown up over here. Nope. Move along. One must be very diligent to observe the commandment of mezuzah. It's an obligation of everyone at all times, even women. Why? Because it's not shebizman garama. Mitzvahs shebizman garama. Mitzvahs that are time bound, women are not obligated in those mitzvahs. But mitzvahs that are not time bound, so what's a time bound mitzvah? Tzitzis. Tzitzis is the mitzvah is only during the day. You have to see them, and you can only see them during the day. Nowadays we have lights, obviously, but the mitzvah is only to see it during the day. So women are patur from the mitzvah of tzitzis, from what else? From sitting in the sukkah, because sukkah is only 7 days or 8 days outside the land of Israel. Whatever, you can name a lot of. But then there are certain mitzvahs which the Torah is beferish, clearly says that every person has to keep, like Shabbos. You might say, hey, Shabbos is only 1 day a week. Yeah, but the Torah then has another. The Torah says that everybody has to observe Shabbos. Same thing with mezuzah. Well, mezuzah is different because mezuzah actually is not time bound. You have to have mezuzah up at all times. Wherever you enter or leave your home, you will encounter the oneness of Hashem. The name of the Holy One, blessed is He. And recalling His love, you will awaken from your lethargy and cease going astray after the vanities of the times. In other words, it's not enough just to have the mezuzah on your door, but you should think for a moment about what you're doing when you pass through the mezuzah. Yeah, mezuzah is also an acronym. There's a famous thing. What is mezuzah? What does that mean? So mezuzot means the doorpost. But another explanation is Mezzuzah, as we said before. What? Zu is zeh, this. What is this? The mezuzah tells you, you know what this is? This is a Jewish home. And you got to act the right way. This is a representative of God. This is a mini sanctuary. So if you think about that, you will realize then that nothing endures forever except the knowledge of the Eternal One, and you will immediately return to your senses and walk in the path of the righteous. I wonder if that's a story. Check it out. Our sages of blessed memory say, where do they say this? In Menachos, he who has tefillin on his head and on his arm, and wears tzitzis on his garment, and has a mezuzah on his doorpost, is sure not to sin, because he has many reminders, and these are the guardian angels who save him from the sin. Maybe it's all why you wear them. And it is said, the angel of Hashem encamps around those who fear him and sets them free. Our sages of blessed memory also say, because of the sin of Mezzuzah, obviously the lack of Mezzuzah, his sons and daughters may die young, whereas one who is diligent to observe the mitzvah of Mezzuzah will have his days lengthened. As it is said, in order that your days be lengthened and the days of your children. I once saw something from the Rebbe. Obviously, I'll tell you two things. One of the main things we spoke about before, one of the main things that the Rebbe, someone was going through health issues or issues of parnasa, of money, financial issues, the Rebbe would say, check your mezuzahs. And there's a story, someone over here in our community, the Rebbe said, check his mezuzahs, and they checked his mezuzahs, and nothing was wrong. But interestingly enough, I once saw, so that's like an interesting story. He loves to tell that story. Why does he love to tell that story? Because one of the things that makes Chabad different than other Chassidim can be illustrated by the following story. There were three types of Chassidim sitting together. And one Chassid says, oh, my Rebbe is the best. I said I needed help with money, and he told me to say this prayer, and I became a millionaire. The next Chassid said, I think that's good. I needed prayers for health, so I went to my Rebbe, and he said, say this prayer. Not only was my life lengthened, but my parents' life was lengthened, and my children's life was lengthened. Everyone was super healthy. Everything, we didn't need glasses anymore, whatever it was. The third Chassid was a Chabad Chassid, and they asked him, hey, tell us a story from your Rebbe, something about your Rebbe. And he said, my Rebbe told me to say I had some issues. My Rebbe said to say you should say certain pieces of Tehillim, and I said those pieces of Tehillim, and nothing happened. And they said, well, what's the miracle in that? He said, well, I'm still a chassid. In other words, we don't connect to a Rebbe because we want miracles. We want something out of the situation. It's all entirely different approach. The Jewish people needed Moses. We needed Moses to give us guidance and to show us and to tell us what to do, on a very simple level. What are we supposed to do for our generation? Clarity for this generation. The Rebbe would say, going back to the mezuzah thing, one time somebody said, Rebbe, you told me to check my mezuzahs, but they didn't find anything wrong with the mezuzahs. And the Rebbe said, what do you want me to tell you? Like the Rebbe looks down and like looks up as if, honestly, like I felt like he was like looking at Shemayim or something. And he goes, what do you want me to tell you? They probably just fixed it before, like the Rebbe was thinking about, I don't know what he was doing, but he was like thinking, he goes, I don't know, what do you want me to tell you? They probably just fixed it before they told you, and they told you everything's fine, but perhaps they fixed it. Maybe it was just something needed to be filled in, a letter needed to be filled in or something. So even though the guy likes to tell the story that there was nothing wrong with my mezuzahs, I always think back to another time when somebody actually complained to the Rebbe that there was nothing wrong with my mezuzahs, and the Rebbe said, there probably was something wrong with mezuzahs, but they just fixed it. But the point of all that is that mezuzah has an effect upon you far beyond just protecting the home or fulfilling the mitzvah. It actually, your life is connected with that mitzvah. Every person's life is connected with that mitzvah, and there are many, many stories of mezuzahs. Someone had a heart condition, and the word levavecha, where it says your heart, something was wrong with the letter Vez or Vav or Lamed, and they fixed it, and the person became healed. I'm talking, modern stories. You can Google them, and they're very normal people, very wealthy, successful, people telling these stories. Not to say it motivates me to be better with mezuzah or anything like that, but it's just, nevertheless, the point is mezuzah protects you even after, no matter where you are, anytime. It's above time and space and place, like all mitzvahs. So they have an effect upon you above time and space at all times. Doesn't matter where you are, what's going on with your life. Mitzvahs have that power. Since we'll do one more halacha. Since the mezuzah serves as a reminder of the oneness of Hashem, therefore, when leaving the house, when entering, you should kiss the mezuzah. The Rebbe would just touch the mezuzah, or some people, take their hand and they kiss it. Sometimes our hands are a little bit dirty, but you should not place your hand directly on the mezuzah itself. Therefore, important to have a glass encasement cover the name of Hashem. Yeah, that's what we have. You can't just put a parchment. All you need to do is stick a piece of parchment with a piece of tape and just put it right in your door. But you don't want to do that because the elements will definitely start chipping away at your mezuzah. So we have a case. When leaving the house and placing your hand on the mezuzah, you should say, Hashem is my keeper, Hashem is my protector by my right hand. Hashem will preserve my going and my coming from now until eternity. I don't know anybody that says that. I'm not sure that was like an accepted halacha. Oh, the mezuzah of an individual should be examined 2 times every 7 years, and one belonging to a group, in order to avoid excessive bother, should be examined 2 times every 50 years. The biggest mezuzah I've ever seen was walking into the old city from Jaffa Road, Rehov Jaffa, into the old city in Jerusalem. And there's one of the gates, on the Jaffa gate, there's a huge, surrounded by bullet holes from the 6-Day War. There's a huge mezuzah. You should check it out. All right. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, Omar, go first, then Bella. Omar's name popped up first.
Yes, because I've seen that some mezuzahs are kosher and some of them are not. I guess the difference maybe in the scroll or something. My question is, in that case, would it be, let's say, useless, or is it more important the kavana, or what would be the idea on that?
Great question. In with regards to mitzvahs, mitzvahs loy tzricha lekavana. To do a mitzvah, you don't need proper intention. You need to actually, everything needs to be done kosher to the specifications. So that's why when faced with, if I should have a mohel, a ritual person who does a ritual circumcision, is it better to have someone who's like very holy and Kabbalistic, or a person who's better at like cutting? And the better at cutting, that is like everyone holds that's better. The most frum people say, I'd rather have someone who doesn't know any of the Kabbalistic intention, but can do the mitzvah perfectly. Same thing with mezuzah. The parchment has to be perfect. It has to be written on real parchment, not computer paper, which is usually the bigger issue, computer paper. Or another issue is when letters touch each other. That's a very common issue, and they can just cut. You take it to a scribe, you can do it in 5 seconds. You can fix it up. Or words become kind of like erased, the ink sort of dissipates, and they just have to fill it in. So to answer your question, it's much more important to have a mezuzah be correct to the specification than anything else.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Yeah, Bella?
Okay, if I go stay like as a guest in a non-Jewish person's house for more than 30 days, because it does happen sometimes, do I have to take a mezuzah with me for like the guest room?
Do you pay to stay there?
No.
It's not yours. It's not your dwelling. No, you have not transferred ownership. Paying is a way of saying I'm transferring ownership to myself, or partial ownership to myself. The fact that you don't exchange anything, you're just staying there. Great question. You don't need a mezuzah.
Perfect.
It doesn't belong to you. Good question. Great question. Okay. Obviously, just text me if you guys have any questions on WhatsApp.
One more question.
Yeah.
Because thinking about the first thing of washing the hands, I guess the same applies for netilat yadayim. So it would be better to do it in the kitchen, or is it accepted to do it on the bathroom?
Oh, for on netilas yadayim. Say your question again. I think you moved away from this.
Yes, for netilas yadayim,
yeah,
it is better to do it in the kitchen, for instance.
Yeah, then the bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah. If all you have is a bathroom, just close the toilet. close the
Okay.
cover. But yeah, it's better to do it in the kitchen. Yes, good question.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, everybody, see you tonight maybe if you'd like to join. Otherwise, good Gebench Yar. We'll speak soon.
Thank you.
No problem.